we going to sing tonight? Like I say every time, a good nigun is one that you just can't stop. Can't figure out where to stop it. Shlomo's nigunim are the best. So we're continuing Be'ezrat Hashem in Likutey Moharan. We're on lesson 5, Torah Hey. Shalom Aleichem to Zahava and to Katie. And someone else is watching, I'm not sure. And of course, Ari is here, and to my mother who watches every week, and Shana Batsheva, and everyone else who joins us, Carlos, anyone else, L'chaim. So, well, so many thoughts. The war that just is not going to end anytime soon. I guess we don't have any choice. You end it soon, you just delay the inevitable. And Be'ezrat Hashem should be successful. The IDF should be successful in their mission. And everybody, everyone should be healthy, and the hostages should be returned, even the ones that are not alive, Be'ezrat Hashem. At least their bodies returned. Crazy times, and apparently some Hamas head in Beirut was assassinated tonight. Whatever his name, who really cares? Kill them all, as far as I'm concerned. The sooner the better. So, since this is quite a long lesson, I'm going to use the abridged Likutey Moharan before we start the class to briefly go over where we are, so we keep track of what's going on. So, the chatzotzot v'kol shofar, the sounding of the trumpets and the blowing of the shofar. And this is where Rabbi Nachman starts off, and of course he's going to make connections through the whole thing. He starts off, and this is now the abridged Likutey Moharan, which I have here in Hebrew and English, was written by Reb Nassim. Most of the Breslov library was written by Reb Nassim, and this was written by Reb Nassim by Rabbi Nachman asking him to make an abridged version of the Likutey Moharan. And in order for people like us to be able to go over the lesson and remember where we are. So it's very, very short, right? It took us, I think, 2 classes to get through this one sentence in the beginning. Every person has to say, the whole world was not created except for me. Meaning the whole world was created for me. That's from Sanhedrin 37a. Al kein tzarich kol adam lerot ula'anyen b'chol et b'tikun ha'olam. And so every person has to worry about, be concerned about, all the time, fixing the world, ולמלות חסרון העולם ולהתפלל עבורם, and to fill the things that are lacking in the world, and to daven for those people or on behalf of the world. So he starts off, Rabbi Nachman says, here we have the power, the whole world was created just for us, so that means we all have a unique responsibility, a unique role to play. So that's Aleph. Bet. צריך לעשות המצווה בשמחה גדולה. כל כך, person has to do the mitzvot with such incredible joy, עד שלא יראה שום שכר עולם הבא בשבילה. Till a person doesn't even, עד שלא ירצה, person doesn't even want any reward in the world to come for doing this mitzvah. אלא שיזמין לו הקדוש ברוך הוא mitzvah אחרת בשכר mitzvah zot. But rather, the person just wants Hashem to send him another mitzvah, him or her another mitzvah, as a reward for the mitzvah that they did. Right? That's if you're really on the highest level. You know, there are people that are addicted to chesed. I have one friend like that, like really, really addicted to chesed. In a sense, it's a very high level of mitzvah, goer mitzvah. You do one mitzvah, you just want another, one mitzvah, you want another. But as we've learned, the Yetzer Hara can also come in the form of a tzaddik, and if it's preventing a person from living a normal life and from getting married, because of that, then it's not a healthy thing. And the friend that I'm thinking about, apparently that's what's going on. But still, he does a lot of chesed, a lot of chesed. It's a beautiful thing. Ki hu ne'eneh me'amitzvah be'atzma. So the person just enjoys doing the mitzvah itself. The person doesn't need any other reward. Ve'al yedei zeh yuchal lida ma shenigzar al ha'olam. And through this, a person can know what judgments were placed or given upon the world. Ve'im hu kodem gzar din u'lachar gzar din. And whether the person is before the judgment in heaven or after the judgment in heaven. ועל מי ומי נגזר הדין חס ושלום, and to whom and who and about who the judgment was given, God forbid. ויודע איך להתפלל עבור העולם, and then as a result the person will know how to daven for the world. And I guess what he's saying here is when he says the world, he also means if you're davening for something specific, like Aryeh Leib ben Harav Avraham Yisrael. If I'm davening for that person, whoever he is, so I'm davening for the whole world. That's essentially what I'm doing. I'm davening for the whole world because I'm davening for his world. I have my world and I'm davening for his world. And because I see there's something lacking in his world, so I have to use the power that I have from my world, from the whole world being created for me, to daven for him. So, how do you know if it's before a judgment or after a judgment? That's dependent on the joy that you feel in doing the mitzvah. ויודע איך להתפלל עבור העולם, כי לאחר גזר דין צריכים הצדיקים להלביש תפילתם בסיפורים. So this is the kitzur. We haven't even finished the section yet. We're going to finish it tonight. Because if it's before the judgment, you can daven directly for a person. But if it's after the judgment, then you go to the tzaddik. The tzaddik is on a higher level, more connected to Hashem. Doesn't see the obstacles in the world that we see. And the tzaddik hides the davening in a story, which is what the story that I ended up telling a couple of weeks ago, which was incredible Hashgacha Pratit, because I just opened the book and literally have hundreds and hundreds of stories in my office. It's just like, I need a story, that one. And it was about the Tolna Rebbe who came into a house and said, I can't eat here for Shabbos unless you have children. And the couple wanted him to bless them with children. He said, so next year I'll come back and you'll have children, because Hashem obviously wouldn't let me eat in the house if I made a promise that I can't eat in the house without children, but I promise to eat in your house. So that's the roundabout way that tzaddikim are able to get in a prayer even after the gates of heaven are closed. וכל זה זוכים על ידי עשיית המצווה בשמחה גדולה מהמצווה בעצמה כנ"ל. If you're cold, you can close the door, by the way. Right? Okay. And all of this a person merits by doing the mitzvah with joy, with great joy, and the joy comes from the mitzvah itself as mentioned above. So that's what we're going to finish tonight, that section, so this is a summary of it. But I'm just going to read the next section so you have an idea of where we're going. Ikar HaSimcha, where is the main expression of joy? Hu balev, it's in the heart. Right? Because you don't have joy in your brain. Even if you intellectually understand something, the joy is in your heart. Because the heart has the emotions. ואי אפשר ללב לשמוח עד שיסיר הקמומיות שבליבו. A person is not able to be joyous in their heart until they've removed the crookedness that's in their heart. שיהיה לו ישרות לב. That a person should have a straight heart, not a crooked heart. ואז יזכה לשמחה. And that a person will merit to be joyous, meaning the person has to remove their ego. In order to receive true joy from the mitzvot, you have to do it on a level of not having an ego. And that's the akmumiyut, that's the crookedness, shebalev, that's in the heart. Mafshitin al yedei ra'amim. And how do you break it? You break it through creating thunder in the heart. Shehem b'chinat tefillah. B'koach, but this is davening. How do they translate it here? Praying with energy, b'yira, with enthusiasm, v'ahava v'kavana gedola, and with fear and awe of love and intense concentration. So that's the next section we're going to talk about. So a lot of this lesson is talking about davening, because we started off by saying, the Rabbi Nachman says, we have the power to daven for somebody else and to change the world. So then you have the responsibility. If the whole world is created for you, you have the responsibility to daven for somebody else. And he's saying, okay, first of all, how do we know what type of davening we're supposed to do? We're supposed to daven directly or in a roundabout way. And that you know by the joy that you feel in doing the mitzvah. And then he says, the true joy is doing the mitzvah itself. So that's what we're going to talk about now. And somebody who's on this level, that does the mitzvah with such intense joy, that the person doesn't want any reward in the world to come for doing this mitzvah. בשמיים על ישראל, הוא קודם גזר הדין לרעה ולאחר גזר הדין. A person that is on this level of doing the mitzvah just for the joy of doing the mitzvah and feels joyous in doing this can know the difference between whether there's prosecution that's happening up in heaven against the Jewish people, whether that prosecution is before the judgment for bad or after the judgment. V'atam, and the reason is ki mitzvot hem koma shlema. The mitzvot are an entire existence. Liviyut. Keneged guf ha'adam b'shlemut. Just like a person has a whole body. Most people. Some people are born without limbs and all kinds of things, but for the most part, a person is born with a whole body. Ki yeshnam ramach mitzvot aseh ve'shisa mitzvot lo taseh, because there's the 248 positive commandments and the 365 negative commandments. Negative commandments are like don't steal, don't commit adultery. Like saying don't do this. The positive commandments are like give tzedakah, keep Shabbos. Keneged ramach evarim ve'shisa gidim. As opposed to the 248 limbs or extensions of limbs and the 365 sinews that a person has in their body. I don't know how that works out exactly. V'zoi kodem koma shlema. And this is a complete structure. V'hema mitzvot mechayin et kol hakomot. And the mitzvot sustain all of these existing structures. And he breaks them down into three things. Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. There's the physical world, there's time, and there's human beings. And that's from Sefer Yetzirah. Sheyeshnam b'chol bria, that this exists in all of creation. Hein komata adam, first we have the human being, which is the physical person. Hein komata olam, then we have the world, which has different countries and different aspects in different countries. Hein komat shana, and just like we also have time, kol zmanei hashana hein gam kein komat shnema. So all of time is also an independent existence. So we have human beings, we have physical locations, and we have time. V'yeshnam yamim b'shana shehem b'chinat rosh, v'yeshnam b'chinat lev. And he's talking about there's times of the year that it's like the head, like Rosh Hashanah, and there's times of the year that it's like the heart. I'm not sure what that's connected to. 47 doesn't give it. Oh, he does say. Okay. Chodashim mekablim le'evrei adam. Kagon Nisan keneged yad yamin, Iyar yad small. Okay, so apparently the months are related to, for example, Nisan is the right hand, Iyar is the left hand. So the months also have connections to the body parts. Ki olam, shana, v'nefesh, he mekablim chiyut. So all of these things receive sustenance from the mitzvot. Time, people, and locations. All of those things, there are certain things that you do. For example, there's harvesting, there's different times of the year for different mitzvot, there's different people have different obligations, and different times of the day that we do those mitzvot. And all of those three levels receive their sustenance from the mitzvot. Ashefa hazakuk lehem lekiyumam mea mitzvot. So that's what I just said. That the abundance that comes through them comes through the mitzvot, and every mitzvah is related to this. I'm going to skip over some things here because he just kind of repeats it to make the point. Kamo shekatuv, as is written, v'chol ma'aseh be'emunah. All of a person's actions should be done with faith in Hashem. Shekol b'yad, that all of creation, ima'aseh Hashem, is the act of Hashem that receives its sustenance from faith. Kol mitzvotecha emunah. Now he's just giving another text proof for this, that all of the mitzvot are called emunah, meaning that haresha mitzvot in b'chinat emunah. All of the mitzvot are connected to emunah, to faith. Ki adam mekayem et mitzvat Hashem, the person that keeps a mitzvah of Hashem, mechimat shema'amin b'akadosh baruch hu, v'tziva alehem, that the person believes that Hashem is there, and that Hashem commanded us to do the mitzvot, and that's only coming from a place of faith. Nimtza, it follows, she'abira kula mekabelet chiyut me'amitzvot she'em b'chinat emunah. Then as a result, all of creation receives its sustenance from the mitzvot, and the basis of the mitzvot is emunah, is faith in Hashem, because we're only doing a mitzvah because we believe that Hashem wants it. Alice is joining us also. Welcome back to Alice in Baltimore, in Pikesville, Maryland. How many miles? 5,883 miles away. Very precise. Okay. V'hine HaKadosh Baruch Hu achdut pashut. Hashem is the simple unification. Ima mitzvot. With the mitzvot. Because Hashem is the one that gives the mitzvot, and Hashem is the one that receives from the mitzvot. Kadosh Baruch Hu litzono echad him. Hashem and His desire are one. The aim ze kamo etzel adam basar v'dam. It's not like a person of flesh and blood. Shehu litzono eino echad. That a person and their desire is not the same. Because I might want a certain thing, and just because I want it doesn't mean that it happens. But Hashem, everything that Hashem wants happens. That's the difference. For Hashem, all that Hashem wants, it is. And although we want, not always, most of the time it's not. But achen shan anu mikayamim et mitzvot, anu mitachadim imo kivyachol. So when we do the mitzvot, we're connecting with Hashem's will, which is connected with Hashem, as it were. Uke maaseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu bebriat haolam, and just like Hashem's action in creating the world, shana nefesh, the world, time, and people, ketikunam uchesidram, in their proper order and the way that they're supposed to be, b'koach shemekayamim et maaseh mitzvot shemechayed kol hakomot hanam. That when we do the mitzvot, we're sustaining all of human beings, we're sustaining the whole world and all of time. You have a question? I'm just stretching, okay. Mata Esther, down right here, like literally on the same street. Azai Kadosh Baruch Hu mesameach behem, then Hashem is happy from these things. B'ma'asav, in his creation. So when we do the mitzvot, we give Hashem joy. And he's going to explain how that joy is in just a second. If he doesn't get to it, he says it right here. Umitaneg behem, Hashem derives pleasure from us doing the mitzvot. K'mo shekatuv, yismach Hashem b'ma'asav. Hashem is happy in his creations. She ka'asher hakol ketikuno v'sidro, and when everything is the way that it's supposed to be, kivichol, as it were, olam ole simcha v'ta'anuk lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu mikol ma shebara. Then the joy and pleasure of everything Hashem created is elevated. Kamo bar melacha, like a craftsperson, shoseh eze kli, that makes some type of vessel, va'kli hu yafeh, and the vessel is beautiful, azai hu mitaneg ba, then the craftsperson derives pleasure from this. And here I'm learning this lesson before the class in my office. And in my office I now have a ceramic wheel. And Baruch Hashem, every week now, 2 days a week, I'm doing ceramics in my office. And I'm sitting there looking at the pots and the bowls and the mugs that I threw. They're sitting there and drying now. And I look at them really, like, a lot of the time I just look over at the shelf. I'm like, wow, they're really beautiful. I go back to work, I go back to learning. They're really beautiful. And then I'm reading this right here, and he says, just like the person who makes a vessel, and they look at the vessel and they derive pleasure from it after they made the vessel, so too a person that keeps mitzvot gives Hashem the same pleasure, because Hashem is the craftsman. Hashem is the person who created the vessel, and we are the vessels. So when the vessels are straight and proper, meaning like if I were to throw a mug and it rippled and made a big mess on the wheel, I wouldn't like it. But if I make something and it comes out straight and orderly and the edges are right and everything is very nice and trim, then me as the craftsman, it gives me great pleasure. The same thing he says here with Hashem. When we do a mitzvah, we reunite with Hashem and we bring joy to Hashem, just like the craftsperson who makes a craft. Hashem's joy is enclosed in the mitzvot that we keep, that we do. Because this is the unification with Hashem. Kihem me'uchadot im HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'achdut pshuta v'kanal. Because the mitzvot are completely united with Hashem. If I have, for example, I say, I want to make a cup. So I'm talking about pottery now. So I say, I want to make a cup. And in my mind, I have a cup, and I make that cup. Hashem wants this world to be a world of free will, where we choose to do Torah and mitzvot. And when we choose to do Torah and mitzvot, we are fulfilling the will of Hashem. Just like a person is fulfilling their will of eating a piece of pizza, or drinking water, or whatever it is. That is the will of Hashem. And even though Hashem doesn't need it, for whatever reason, Hashem wants it. And Hashem, when we do a mitzvah, we give Hashem this pleasure. Because we create a unification between us and Hashem, and we complete the creation, because Hashem's will was that the mitzvot would be done and it would sustain the world. And so when Hashem is happy, then the joy is enclosed in the mitzvot. And a person that does the mitzvah with joy the joy coming from just doing the mitzvah itself. Shesameach be'etzem kiyum ha-mitzvah. The person is happy just in doing the mitzvah. ולכן כל רצונו הוא לזכות לקיים mitzvah nosefet ve'en mevakesh schar acher. And then the person's only desire is just to have another mitzvah. It doesn't want any reward for it. Nimsa shenichnas mekayem et mitzvah. So when a person enters into, and he says here in parentheses, meaning the person does the mitzvah, b'simcha shebemitzvah, with the joy of the mitzvah, the joy of just the mitzvah itself, hu nichnas v'simchat hakadosh baruch hu hamelubeshet b'mitzvah. The person enters into the joy that Hashem is getting, which is enclosed in the mitzvah. So when you do a mitzvah and there's joy from doing the mitzvah, the joy that you're feeling is Hashem's joy that's enclosed in the mitzvah, because it was Hashem's will that the mitzvah be done. Because you're the one that's fulfilling Hashem's will by doing the mitzvah, you receive Hashem's joy in the mitzvah. I think this is awesome. I never heard anything like this in my whole life. I'm telling you, if it wasn't Rabbi Nachman, I wouldn't believe it. If some guy just came into my own and said, "Hey, I'm going to share some Torah," like, yeah, whatever. Here, Rabbi Nachman says, "You want what is the joy that you're experiencing in the mitzvah? You're experiencing Hashem's joy, because Hashem created the mitzvah, but you're the one that does the mitzvah. And when you do the mitzvah, Hashem gets the joy from it, and the joy that you feel is Hashem's joy from your unification of doing the mitzvah." And of course, we know the word mitzvah is connection. It comes from tzavta, like tzevet. Tzevet is a team, means people are working together. Pliers are apparently tzvat, although I think you just say playerim. If you go to the hardware store, you say tzvat, nobody's going to know what you're talking about. And that's the mitzvah. Shemesameach b'ma'asav, that Hashem is joyous from His creations. V'zeh b'chinat ha'katuv, and this is the text proof for this. Yismach Yisrael b'osav. So we had Yismach Hashem b'ma'asav. Hashem is happy with His creations, and the Jewish people are happy in doing Hashem's creations, meaning the mitzvot. Yisrael smechim b'akadosh baruch hu. The Jewish people are happy with Hashem, she'asa v'bara otanu, that made and created us. V'anu smechim b'simcha shelo, and we're happy with Hashem's joy. V'davar zeh mekayimim al yedei kach, and this thing comes about through shesmichim b'kiyum ha-mitzvot, that we're all happy by doing the mitzvot. Shesham melubeshet simchat hakadosh baruch hu, that there is enclosed Hashem's joy. Harei sheshtei asmechot kshorot tluyot zo bezo. These two joys are connected and dependent on one another. So Hashem's joy is dependent on us, and our joy is dependent on Hashem. When we get joy from a mitzvah, it's because Hashem is getting joy from the mitzvah, from us doing the mitzvah. But why are we getting the joy from the mitzvah? Because Hashem is getting the joy from the mitzvah. So we don't get the joy unless we do the mitzvah. Hashem doesn't get the joy unless we do the mitzvah. Once we do the mitzvah, we create that infinity cycle of simcha, 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 simcha. נמצא שכל העולם מתנהג, כשהעולם מתנהג כסידו ותיקונו, ישנה שמחה אצלו יתברך. So it follows that when the whole world is behaving the way that it's supposed to, meaning through following Torah and mitzvot, it gives Hashem pleasure. כמו האומן השמח בכלי שעשה כשהוא יפה ומושלם כנ"ל. Just like the artist that derives pleasure from the vessel that they create when it's beautiful and perfect, as mentioned above. Im kain, if so, al kol chacha, then it means that it has to follow sheyesh ezet tsar v'din ba'olam, that there has to be some type of suffering in the world, in judgment in the world, b'makom mesuyam ba'olam, in a certain place in the world, shana b'zman mesuyam, at a certain time in the world, and nefesh b'bnei adam, amongst people. Azai bevadai nigra nechsar kivychol, and then as a result, of course, something is lacking. Mesimchat hakadosh baruch hu, k'mo shekatuv veyitatzev el libo. his heart became sad. So he's saying here Hashem is deriving pleasure from doing the mitzvot. But sometimes we're going to have judgments against us for things not being in order. We call it a tikkun, we call it a fixing. When something goes wrong for a person, instead of saying it's just a bad thing, we say it's a tikkun because it's helping us to straighten things out. So sometimes it's not always going to be happy, sometimes it's going to be the sadness. And כשהקדוש ברוך הוא גוזר גזר דין להעניש את העולם ואת בני האדם מחימת חטאיהם, when Hashem has a judgment against the world and wants to punish the world because of their transgressions, כביכול, as it were, ישנה עצבות לפניו, then Hashem is also sad. כמו שאמרו בגמרא, as it says in the Gemara, שכינה מה אומרת? קלני מראש. What is the Shechina? And the Shechina is Hashem's expression in this world. So for example, we have the light here, the light above. The light that's coming down here is not the source of the light. The source of the light is the light bulb. The light that's coming down here is the Shechina. So Hashem, if Hashem were to reveal himself in this world, we wouldn't have free choice, because Hashem would just tell us what to do, and that would be the end of the world, and there's no reason for it to exist. So instead, Hashem has the Shechina, which is Hashem, but it's an aspect of Hashem, just like this light is an aspect of the light bulb. And so the Shechina, what does it say? Kalani me mizroa. Did I read that right? Mizroa. Roshi kaved alai v'zar'i kveda alai. So it says, my head is heavy and my offspring is heavy. Meaning, he's bringing a text proof here to say that when we suffer, Hashem is also suffering with us. Because really Hashem just wants us to be doing mitzvot all the time. And unfortunately the world doesn't work like that, because if there isn't reward and punishment, if there isn't good and evil, then the world can't exist. I mean, you just take, for example, Hamas. Here they come, they murder all these people. Hashem should avenge their blood. Ezrat Hashem, Chaim. And if the world had no judgment, everybody would just say, okay, what's next on TV? And that would be a pretty miserable place to live. And unfortunately, we don't have a choice, but we either kill or be killed. So we have to fight back. And here we have this clash. And here we have people dying. And we have people being injured. And it's crazy. But that's how the world works. And really, all Hashem wants is that everything go according to the mitzvot. Hashem would love for the people in Gaza to just be living their lives, praying to the Kaaba in Mecca and not bothering the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. But that's how the world works. So when we suffer, Hashem is also suffering. And as we know from when the Egyptians died in the Red Sea, Hashem said to the Jewish people, don't be joyous, because they were my creations as well. And as much as the people, the Palestinian leadership at least, are idiots, they're still Hashem's creation. And what we really want is for them to live with us in peace. But if they don't, oh Hashem, they have lots of weapons and friends, like the United States. And regarding doing the mitzvot as mentioned above, we have to do it with joy. Here, I want to make sure to finish the section. Here, we don't have so much time left. Okay, let's see. So we know that if there's a joy before doing the judgment, we know what that's from, before the judgment is given. But if it's after the judgment is given, then we have to say our prayers. Here, it's over here. ולפי זה, אם עדיין לא היה גזר הדין, אזי יכול הוא להתפלל כסדר, בפירוש את תפילתו לביטול הגזרה. So before the judgment was given, a person can daven directly, Hashem, save us from this plague, for example. Or save us from this war. We're already in the war, so it's already after the gzar din. Ulam, however, im kvar nigzar din, if after the judgment was given, like when we had COVID, for example. COVID would be a gzar din. So before people could say, there might be a pandemic in the world. And we could daven, Hashem, please don't bring a pandemic into the world. Keep everyone healthy. But after the pandemic is already in the world, the Gzar Din has already been given. Tzarich lahalbish et tfilato b'sipor or b'ma'amar. A person has to then enclose their davening in a story or some other roundabout way of saying it. Kadei shelo yedu v'yavinu malachei asmol et tfilato. That the angels of the left, whatever besides the political implications, whatever that means there, they won't understand it. It's going to confuse them. V'lo yakvu ota milamala, and they won't block the person's davening up above, like the story that I mentioned in the last few classes. And this is what it says about doing the mitzvot. And not receiving a reward in the world, not even caring about the reward in the world to come. As the sages of blessed memory said, B'Shabbat, on Yom Shabbat, regarding Shabbat, Zachrenu me'achad b'Shabbat. Remember from the beginning to Shabbat. Kfar meyom Rishon tizkor et Shabbat. Already from Sunday, remember Shabbat. Keep in mind Shabbat. Im tizdamein lecha manayafa tishberena leShabbat. If you come across something nice, like a nice fruit or a nice candy or whatever, something nice for Shabbos that'll stick around until Shabbos comes, then save that thing for Shabbos. Right? We know the story. Do you remember which rabbi it was in the Gemara that bought like a sheep, and then he bought another one, and then he bought another one, and every day he was finding a nicer one and a nicer one for Shabbos, and he was saying this is the Kavod Shabbos. I don't remember which rabbi it was. In the 6 days of the week, Shehim Sheshet Alfei Shnot Olam Hazeh, that are the 6,000 years of this world. Shehim Hazman Shel B'chinat Maaseh HaMitzvot, that this is the time of the aspect of doing the mitzvot. Ki Hayom, because today, B'olam Hazeh, in this world, La'asotam, we get to do the mitzvot. U'machar le'olam haba lekebel scharam. We only get a chance to do the mitzvot in this world. In the world to come, we'll receive the reward of doing the mitzvot in this world. And when a person merits to feel the joy of a mitzvah already in this world, bizman asiyatam, in this time when they're doing the mitzvot, yeda imhu kodem gzaradin ulachar gzaradin. The person can know if it's before the judgment or after the judgment. So you can feel it. If I take the COVID example, before it comes, you're not so worried. After it comes, it's a big deal. Meshum she'b'sheshet demei bereshit, because during the 6 days of creation, behem nivra'u ha'olam b'shana nefesh, olam shana v'nefesh, then land or physicality, time, and people were created. V'lachen b'sheshet yamim, and then the 6 days, kan b'olam hazeh, in this world, yeshna efsharut lada'at et ma'amad u'matzav ha'olam shana v'nefesh. We can know what's going on in the world depending on the joy that we feel from doing mitzvot. V'zeh, and this is the last paragraph that we're going to read tonight. V'zeh katuv biyomo titen tzcharo. This is what it means, that it says, in your day you will be given a reward. Perush b'pnimiyut, the meaning on a Hasidic level, שמדבר על שכר שהקדוש ברוך הוא נותן על המצוות. We're talking about the reward that Hashem gives for doing the mitzvot. וקשה, now this is a difficulty. הרי אין שכר מצווה בעולם הזה. There's no reward for doing a mitzvah in this world. That's some קידושין. ולכן על כוחך שהשכר הוא יהיה שכרו מהמצוות ועצמן. So you're not going to, like if a person says, okay, I'm going to do the mitzvah of davening mincha every day, Hashem make me rich. Doesn't work like that. What are you going to get? You're going to get the mitzvah of doing mincha the next day, and the next day, and the next day. You might get the mitzvah of doing davening arvit. So what joy are you supposed to receive? What reward are you supposed to receive? You're supposed to simply receive the reward from doing the mitzvah itself. Hainu she'ein zeschar Shen tashlum ve'gamul. It's not a reward that you're going to receive in some physical form, money or some other thing. Ela k'moshe mitba'er le'er schar mitzvah mitzvah. But as we mentioned above, doing a mitzvah, the reward of a mitzvah is doing another mitzvah. Shu kol kach samech b'schut lekayem et ratzon Hashem, that a person is so joyous in being able to do the mitzvah of Hashem, ad shekol ratzono lizchot lekayem od mitzvah, that all the person wants to do is to keep another mitzvah. Ki hu margish et ha'anug hagadol shel simchat hamitzvot, because the person feels such a great joy, the joy of the mitzvot, shebekiyum hamitzvah umitached im HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that by doing the mitzvah the person is unified with Hashem. Asimcha be'asiyat hamitzvah shel Yisrael, the joy of doing the mitzvah of a Jew, ve'asimcha be'atanug hazeh, and this joy and pleasure, hu asachar shelo kvar kam be'olam hazeh. You can get a taste of the reward in the world to come, already in this world. Lefi zeh bi'or ve'hemshech ha'pasuk, and this is the continuation and the clarification of the verse. V'lo tavo alav hashemesh, that the sun won't come. Shelo yaseh mitzvot b'schar olam haba, shehi achar bi'at shimsho. That a person, what it's saying here is that a person will receive the reward in this world and not just in the world to come. Dahainu achar moto, she'az huzman olam haba shelo. That is in the world to come, which is after a person passes away. So we can receive this joy from doing a mitzvah, and the joy that we feel, we know that it's from the joy that we feel in our davening. We know it's before judgment is given, and we can unify with Hashem and His joy. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a short story. I really only have like a few minutes. I'm going to tell it really fast. So there was a chassid of the Amshinover Rebbe, and the Rebbe of Pshisch, Reb Simchat Bunim of Pshischer, would tell the story. And in the storybook, there's a story before that Reb Simchat Bunim was able to open the gates of heaven. So the Amshinover Rebbe, who was the son of the Vorker Rebbe, one of the Vorker Rebbes, and remember the Vorker Rebbe is the silent Rebbe. The Vorker Rebbe barely spoke. On my podcast, I have 2 full episodes of just the Vorker Rebbe. And so this chassid, he bought a bunch of fur. He bought it for 3 rubles a fur. And he wanted to sell them for 10. And when he went to sell, the price went down to 2. So not only was he not going to make a fortune, he was going to lose money. Goes to the option of a Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, what should I do? The Rebbe says, go to this town and you'll have success. He takes the furs, he goes to the town. He gets there, he doesn't know what to do. Like literally doesn't know what to do. So he goes, it's a coffee shop. He goes, he orders a cup of coffee. And he doesn't have any money. Spent all his money on this fur. And nothing happens. The waiter says, you want to pay? He says, no, I want another cup of coffee. Another cup of coffee, another cup of coffee, another cup of coffee. It's now 4 p.m. And a Polish officer walks in. He says, whose wagon is that with all the fur outside? And the chassid said, this is mine. He said, I'll give you 8 rubles for the furs, for each fur. So he said, no, I want 10. He said, 10? That's crazy. No one will pay you 10. Don't you know the price is 2? I'm already offering you 8. He said, no, I want 10. 10 or nothing. Like, get out of here, stupid Jew. And he leaves. Now this Jew doesn't know what to do. And the waiter comes, says, sir, you want to pay for your coffee? He's like, nope, one other coffee. Drinking. It's now close to midnight. The waiter says, I'm sorry, sir, but you're going to have to pay for all that coffee that you drink today. And the Jew doesn't know what to do. He's like, Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, please, you got to help me. The Rebbe gave me a bracha to sell my furs. All of a sudden, the door bursts open. The general is back. And he says, Jew, I'll give you 10 rubles for your fur. I'm so drunk, I don't think I can even get on my horse. Here you go, here's the money. And they exchange money, and the Jew takes his horse, leaves the wagon with all the fur, and goes back. Gets to the Amshon of a Rebbe, and he tells the Rebbe what happened. The Rebbe says, what are you, crazy? 8 rubles was a fortune. Why did you hold out for 10? He said, because I believe that if Hashem could open the gates of heaven, He wasn't going to open them just a little bit. He's going to open them all the way. And I waited for them to be all the way open. So Bezat Hashem, gates of heaven should be open for all of us. And everything that we're doing for should come down. The simcha with good health. Amen.